Okay, I promised this video, I'm going to do my utmost to get through it in one take. Before I start, I want to show part of the reason why I'm here today. These two young men are heroes in every sense of the word. Make no mistake about it. They paid the ultimate price and the ultimate cost by laying their life down for another. No greater deed can one do. I think it would be an absolute travesty to not honor their memory by doing everything we can to change what we're doing in this country as it pertains to safety in our schools, our churches, our workplace, and in our families. There's a motto, a statement, a mantra, title it what you want. I use it in varied ways, and it is this: there's simply nothing more important than the safety and the well-being of a child. There are those in the world of theology that would say discipleship on a soul is more important. I will tell you, I agree, but I'm not here for a theological debate. I'm here to ask a question and make a statement all at once. Is there anything more important than the safety and the well-being of a child? If your answer is yes, you and I need to sit down and have a face-to-face conversation. That being said, these two young men, these heroes, they died in the moment, discerning a greater good, a greater cause, a greater need. Again, title it how you need. But what I see in reviewing, reading about, learning, looking into their lives, is they are wonderful people, amazing young men, aspiring to do great things in life. The one young man, Mr. Kendricks, he paid the ultimate price about 10 miles from where I'm sitting right now. Here in Colorado, we seem to be the epicenter for people that just want to come out and do maligning, mean, incredibly dark and evil things to people. It tends to make national and world news. And it's happened again. It's happened at great cost. See, I don't take this lightly. This is just an emotional plea. It's a stat-driven, logistics-driven, tactics-driven, background-driven, lifelong, researched, vetted plea for all of us to come together. Left side, right side of the political spectrum, I don't give a damn. We all need to come together. See, in my world of emergency services, which is about half my life, and then in the private sector, all I've done is protect and train and look out for those that can't look out for themselves. I hope that I leave some type of legacy behind that said I cared more about others than I cared about myself. But there are times where you have to, in the words of my good friend Nancy, it's time to roll up the sleeves. It's time to take the gloves off. It's time to get busy. In fact, I want to read something to you that a friend of mine put on a timeline yesterday. And man, did it hit me. In fact, I spent most of the night reviewing it and rereading it. It is this: a skill developed in the heart of a man or a woman to protect those that cannot protect themselves is not one that you train the brave for. It is completed when you move the weak out of the way so the job can be completed. It is not always pretty or politically correct, but victory needs no replay to understand its value. Thank you, Dwayne, for that, because I needed that. I needed it because I have stood over too many dead children. I have tried to resuscitate too many children that have died, and I've had too many children die in my arms. And you don't forget their face, and you don't forget the look in their eyes. You don't. It's not so much that they haunt me, as it just breaks my heart that I couldn't do enough to save them or to stop the threat. So I've made it my mission, both in business and my personal life, to look out for those that can't protect themselves. I look out for those that, quite frankly, are vulnerable and they're stuck in soft targets because we have a government or we have a political system or a school system that does not see the value or the need or the necessity to step up to do what is necessary to protect our most precious investment in life, and that's our kids. So I'm coming to you today. I'm going to do this in a bit of a TED Talk form. I'll be speaking, you'll be my audience. I am not just going to hit rapid succession bullet points. I am going to try to lay this out. I'm hoping you'll go through this whole video. If it's not worth your time, then quite frankly, I don't need your help. I am asking for those of you that are watching to share. I'm asking for those of you that receive this from people that shared to share again. Pay it forward, move it forward, do what we got to do to get this word out. If you don't agree with me, share it anyway, because there's others out there that will. And it's not because I have all of the answers. This is a culmination of hundreds of years of experience from a multitude of people that have impacted my life, experienced trainings, things that we have done. I'm going to start with one very simple thing. I'm going to qualify this. I am not here to denigrate, belittle, or knock down anybody. I am here to question systems. I am here to, let's just say, in a non-politically correct way, stand up for those that can't stand up for themselves. So some of this might be a little rough around the edges. It might hit you between the eyes. I don't know. It might be even a little crude at times. It's not my intent, but it's the reality of where we're at. So let me be blunt. We'll just get this out of the way. The world is fucked. And if you don't think it is, you are either incredibly naive, you have your head stuck under a rock, or you're not paying attention. I don't know which one it is. That's as blunt as I'm going to be on the front end. Now let me tell you what I think the solutions are to the problems for our very messed up world. Right now we have a system that is broken in our schools. And when I say a system that is broken, and excuse me, I'm being human today, I've got a little bit of a cold I'm fighting. Our system is broken in our schools. We see this, we recognize it, but I sat down and I read on social media over and over and over and over again in the hundreds, if not thousands of comments. I don't know what to do. I'm scared. I don't want to send my kids to school. On and on and on. Why haven't we done more? Why don't we have armed this, unarmed that? Look, let's cut to the chase. Most of these problems start at home. At home. Our attention span in a Microsoft study shows that we're at an average of 8.9 seconds as adults. Our attention span. This study was started in 2007, concluded in 2015. That just happens to be the same time that the smartphone was out, came out in 2007. In 15, when the study was concluded, it showed that the average adult has an attention span of 8.9 seconds. When it was started, it was minutes. Minutes down to seconds. We've lost our way due to this. If you don't think so, go into a restaurant any day of the week or pull up to a traffic light and look at the family, look at the people driving the car. What are they on? They're on their phone. An entire group will sit in a restaurant and not even talk to each other, but they'll sit there and play on their phones. This is honestly problem number one, because we're disconnected. The studies through the Journal of Medicine that I had read, a couple, 3 years ago, stated that the average time spent parent to child is less than 12 minutes a day. I'm sure that number is shrinking. 12 minutes a day. How in the hell can you know what's going on in your kid's life in 12 minutes a day? So, problem number one, awareness. Awareness to what's going on. That's situational awareness to circumstances surrounding you. That is awareness to what's happening within your family, and most importantly, your kids' lives. I'm not here to preach, I'm just here stating facts. It's a simple fact, and we all know it to be true. It's whether or not we accept it, which is the second part. Awareness, acceptance. You have to be aware of what's happening in the confines of your own family. All too often, you sit down and you read these stories after an active killer has gone in and done what they've done. What do the neighbors say? What do the family say? What do the friends say? I didn't see it coming. I didn't know. Yada, 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 yada. Blah, blah, blah. Right? Look, I've got 2 kids. I've had circumstances at times where I've sat back and I thought, well, what in the world? But when I really slowed down and measured it, it wasn't what my kids were doing that were the problem. It's what I was doing that was the problem. I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't invested enough in their life. I was too busy. I was growing a business. I was doing whatever I was doing. I was traveling. I was in meetings. Fill in the blank. I wasn't invested enough in their life. So when something started going awry, much to my surprise, I'm sitting back going, I want to go to the kids, go, what the heck are you doing? When the reality is, they're looking back at me going, I'm living life the best I know how because you weren't there. That's a gut punch of all gut punches. And I'm ashamed of that. I protect others, I promote, But I think it goes back to the old adage, it's not an excuse, it's an embarrassment. But it's kind of like the plumber with leaky pipes or the maid who has a messy house. I'm the protector who wasn't protecting my own kids. So, acceptance that we have problems and awareness to recognize them. Then start moving towards solutions. That's number one. Number two, within our school systems, I am sick to death, and it's both personally and professionally, I'm sick and tired of hearing schools say, we don't have money. We don't have money. We can't put programs in place. We don't have money. You don't have a money problem. You have millions of dollars flowing through school systems all across this country, large to small. You have an allocation problem. You have an awareness and an acceptance problem. Let me give you an example. Here in Douglas County, Colorado, anytime that there's a tragedy that happens, the header at the top of the email says, safety of your children are the single most important thing to us. Well, I don't know whether that's true or not, but here's what I do know. I go into schools and do assessments all over the country. I go into churches and do assessments. I go into businesses and do assessments. Here's what I've learned. Safety seldom has a line item in the budget. Seldom. It's what's allocated towards that is typically done in a reactionary mode. And here's what I mean by this. So the tragedy that we had here in Highlands Ranch this week, life lost, students critically impacted for the rest of their lives. I have no idea what STEM had in place. I don't know if they had security there or didn't have. I've done zero research as to the STEM process. Here's what I do know. I know that the vast majority of the schools I go into have no money allocated or very little money allocated, or procedures only to check a box for insurance companies so that they can get by. Meanwhile, their sports programs are thriving. Meanwhile, academia is thriving. Meanwhile, fill in the blank. See, it comes down to recognition of what the problem is and awareness of what to do about it so that therefore you can allocate your funds. If there's a bunch of superintendents or school boards or leaders within the community, within our school community that are pissed off hearing this right now, let me just say, sucks to be you. Because here's the deal. I can quantify it over and over and over and over and over. I can literally sit down and showcase in writing places that we have gone into that are sitting down going, we don't have money, but they've got a flourishing sports program. So what's more important? The touchdowns, the scores with the puck, the swimming, or the safety and the well-being of the kids? Because to me, we can cross-pollinate both of them, and they should be. Because every element of your school should have safety integrated into it. Every single thing that you do should have safety integrated into it. I'm not here to cut another program in the school. What I'm here to do is I'm here to say, hey, through our studies, through our business awareness, through our situational awareness of going into these schools and doing these reviews, budgets aren't there. So that's problem number two. It's allocation. What do you do with the funds? What's important to you? So we got to start over here with awareness. We got to start with acceptance. And then we got to get over here into funding. You got to make decisions on the front end to know what you're going to do, which brings us to widgets. There's a lot of people out there that create widgets. I work with people that create widgets. I work with some exceptionally amazing, wonderful, couldn't put enough describing terms on these companies of what it is that they've created, built, and designed that save lives. They do, they save lives. So I'm going to show you a widget that saves lives. This is a Springfield XDM 9mm. This will save or take a life. It will take a life in the hand of a very bad man. It will save lives in the hand of a good guy, because a good guy with a gun stops a bad guy with a gun. Just about every single time. Across the board. So, widgets. I go into schools a lot, and schools say, we need metal detectors. Okay, great. You want to funnel 1,700 kids in your high school through a metal detector every single day? Super. If you're going to get a metal detector, get 5. If you got 1,700 kids, and get the personnel to stand there to deal with it. Don't get one person who's a part-time security person and one metal detector at your front door to expect to solve your problems. Because when I go to do an assessment in a school that tells me, hey, we have a problem, we want to put a metal detector at the front door because we found a kid with a knife and now the parents are enraged, and I pull up to the school and I do my walk around before I go inside to introduce myself in the school, and I find 27 open doors to the campus, you don't need a metal detector. You need an awareness update that you've got open doors to your campuses that are thoroughfares, and people are sliding drugs through the doors, bad things through the doors. Hell, parents are dropping off lunches in the back doors of classrooms. I see this on a regular basis on campuses all over the place. Well, that's crazy, Micah. Campuses are locked down. You got to go through the front door. You got to side in. Let me tell you, it happens all the time across this country. All the time. I go into school after school where I see this repeated. So widgets are okay, but widgets have a purpose and a place, and they coincide with training, awareness, policies, procedures, all of these different things that culminate together. A widget is not your solution. A widget is part of a solution. So any one company that comes in and says, we're going to save all of your kids with this one product, no, they're not. They absolutely are. And that's not any of the people we work with either. And these are some of the greatest products in the world. I work with a guy that developed a product that's a one-way bulletproof laminate. Amazing. It goes on the window of a school. It goes on the window of a police car. And essentially it will do this. I can stand on the outside as a bad guy and shoot it. It'll catch the rounds and it'll stop it. The security guy armed inside can shoot through the window the other direction and take me out as the bad guy. It defies physics. It's incredible. But it's a widget. It's a product. We still have to have training. We still have to have understanding. We have to have mindset. We have to have awareness. We need to know what to do. And right now in this country, we've got glorified media using sensational pieces to scare people to death right now. And instead of using a proactive measure to get out there and say, well, let's talk about real solutions. And look, I'm encompassing all media when I say that. The reality is, if you cut it down to size, our media can be our friend or our media can be our ally. And the reason I'm digressing over into media for a second is because I saw two different reports coming out of this horrific event here in Highlands Ranch. I saw one sensationalizing it, and I saw another one coming out and saying, we're not even going to mention the shooters' names, but we're going to talk about the heroes. Good on you. Good on you for doing that. We should not be sensationalizing these bastards that are going in and doing these horrific acts. What we should not have to do is talk about heroes that died. We should be talking about heroes that lived. And the way that you do that is you put programs and processes and trainings into place that save our children. And you do that by incorporating your faculty, you do that by incorporating your parents, and you do that by incorporating your children, and you do that by incorporating your emergency responders. So there's two different facets that I want to hit on very, very quickly. There's the first responder and then the emergency responder. The first responder is this, because this has been portrayed for far too long the wrong way. And if we got the wrong verbiage or the wrong vernacular describing something, then we need to change it. Let's change it. A first responder is any person that is first on the scene of any event. And I don't care what that event is. Slip and fall, broken leg, concussion, car crash, active shooter. Doesn't matter. The person that rolls up first is the first responder because they're the first person standing there that needs to deal with the circumstance. If they don't know how to deal with the circumstance, then the next first responder that rolls up on scene needs to deal with it. Continue the cycle. The emergency responders are your police, fire, medical, military, trained, hired private professionals that are coming to the scene to help you, to mitigate the problem, to resolve the problem, to stand up, to eliminate the threat, whatever it may be. Those are your emergency responders. We need to get this verbiage changed because if we keep using the wrong vernacular, the wrong outcome happens. Our emergency responders, it's not 911, what's your first response? It's 911, what's your emergency? Okay, we're sending somebody to you. Those are emergency responders. Why is that important? Because our school officials are first responders. Teachers are our first responders. Students are our first responders. In your own home, parents are the first responders to the problems that the kids are going through. If your kid comes in and says, hey, I'm being bullied, I'm being ostracized, whatever it may be, I got beat up at school, the parent is the first responder. The parent then needs to partner with the school. And it's not go to the school and drop your kid off and go, here's my problem, go fix it. I've got an issue at home. I'm aware of my problem. I'm acknowledging my problem. I'm coming to you to partner with you so that we can resolve this. It's getting in front of it. And again, sorry for my cold. So, first responders, emergency responders. Let's move to what I'll call the final talking point right now. Look, there's 1,000 talking points on this. I'm hitting this at a surface level today due to time and due to necessity. So, armed response. I said a few minutes back, good guy with a gun stops a bad guy with a gun. Every school in this country, every single school in this country, once they recognize and are aware of the problem and acknowledge the problem, go in to mitigate the problem, is funding, put programs in place. You also got to put people in place. This right here will stop a threat. A proactive person going at the situation head on will slow down the threat or stop the threat. I'm going to give you an example. Track with me here for a second. We sent an inordinate amount of resources to STEM school here in Highlands Ranch because of active killer in progress at a school. Why wouldn't we, right? Here's the problem with this. And I want to be very clear. I am not in any way, shape, or form, saying don't go. I'm not telling police chiefs, fire chiefs, EMS chiefs, sheriffs, FBI, ATF. I am not sitting back as a retired peace officer, retired EMS person, telling you I've got all the answers. What I am telling you is, and you guys know this to be true in these leadership roles, many of you have allocated resources to go to an event when it unfolds. So in other words, the tones drop, you guys go. Out here in the civilian world, if you don't know what that means, when a 911 call comes in on an active killer situation like this, it's kind of an all hands on deck, everybody goes. You're going to get command staff all the way down. If you're sitting out there as a parent going, yay, excellent, well, in part that's true, but there's another aspect to this. We send so many resources to it that we tend to vacate the needs and the necessities for the rest of the community. So here's where this becomes very, very important. And yes, this is doomsday. It is tragic, but it is real. It has happened around the world, and it is coming to America. And if you don't think it's coming to America, again, get your head out of the sand. Because there's been test runs and dry runs done all over the world to come here to hit us. Here's what this looks like. So an issue happens at a school on one side of town. Meanwhile, there's 10 other issues that are about to evolve and happen because of terrorist activity. And once these guys, and they figured it out years ago, we just haven't figured out how to respond to it, because our response is we throw all of our resources at the one problem. Meanwhile, leaving everybody else kind of abandoned, or minuscule limited resources left in the office or on the streets to cover emergencies. I get why we did it in the past. That tactic needs to change. The example I would use is if we have the right personnel in the schools, trained, prepared, and armed. And I'm talking every school in this country. I'm not talking just high schools. I'm talking every school. Colleges, high schools, middle schools, elementary schools, charter schools, private schools, armed security, and not one guy, not two guys. A multitude of people within there with proper funds allocated will go meet that threat head on. That way, the resources that are coming, the emergency responders that are coming to back the first responders or to eliminate or mitigate that situation, they cross-train, they cross-pollinate, they work together. This needs to be a new full-time role for our emergency services, is constantly working with our schools, not going in and training at the school, but going in and working with the school, going into churches and cross-training with the safety ministries and the security teams that are in the churches, in private businesses, because the world is changing. The bad guys have figured out that lockdowns, they know how the lockdowns work, right? So if we really want to cause some damage, we go into one school and we start an event. We go into one school and we start a shooting. Meanwhile, we got 10 other guys out there in the same community or in communities around that area, where all of our resources got shifted from 7 or 8 different departments or 10 or 20 different departments over to that one school, leaving the others vulnerable, and then the bad guys go hit the other schools. And now all of a sudden we don't have the resources to pull back, or we're running chaotically in different directions. Having assigned teams in schools with cross-training, with emergency service, arguably without a doubt, is going to help either mitigate or potentially even eliminate the situations we're going to have. And let me be clear, the inevitable can still happen. A bad guy with a gun on a mission is arguably can still get inside or do damage. They can. But if we have people in place, people that are trained, people that are there full-time, always there, always prepared, staff, the process, trust me, everything changes. Everything changes. The dynamic changes. The paradigm shifts. The dichotomy of this changes. It simply does. The example that would be the easiest for everybody to understand is this. I'm not a Navy SEAL. I've got buddies that are Navy SEALs. I can tell you that SEAL Team 6 went in and got bin Laden, right? It was a small collective group of men, awareness, acknowledgement that there's a problem, funding, training, and ability. They send a small group to go in and execute this mission to take out arguably one of the greatest threats that the world has ever known. We could have sent battalions of people and gone in there and blitzkrieged it. We could have flown jets over the top and dropped bombs. But we sent a team in for 2 reasons. One, we wanted the right tool for the job, and we wanted to know that we got the right guy. Because if we go in and we just blow it up, well, we don't know that we got him or not. So if we go in there and we put eyes on and we handle it, we're done. Same situation in a school. If we've got 4 or 5 people responding that are part of that school, that are armed, tactically proficient, trained, have the right mindset, or due to situational awareness, know what to do inside the response window, the threat goes away much quicker. The responding community then can keep resources allocated, not just for that, but outside in the community. And believe me, this is a heavy subject matter to talk about because it steps on toes, but we need to start thinking about the way that we're doing our tactics. Last thing is this. When it comes to when it comes to the big picture of where we're at in our country right now, and the whys, and look, it's chaos right now. Everybody knows it. I want to make a statement that I think is really, really important. I didn't sit down here just to talk about tactics today. I didn't sit down here just to acknowledge the heroes in the lives that were taken. That goes without saying. One of the pieces that I think we're missing, one of the foremost foundational pieces that we're missing, is human kindness and dignity and faith. It's almost like we've forgotten how to shake a hand and what it means, or look somebody in the eye and say, I care about you, or I'm going to follow through, or hey, you believe in this, but I believe in this, but you know what, I'm going to accept you. But instead, we have polarized the nation. We got people wanting to blame the former president, the current president. What a bunch of crap. I've never met either one. I don't know either one. They're men. Yeah, they're leading the country, but the reality is this. We have two political parties divided, and these political parties are speaking into all the things that I'm talking about right now. They are in the way. And that statement that I read you earlier, that Dwayne said, you got to get people out of the way. You got to get the weak out of the way so the strong can go in and do the job. I don't need to go out and train a bunch of SEALs on what to do. The SEALs already know what to do. In fact, I'll learn from them. But here's what I do know. I want to cross-train with them so I can get a little bit of their experience and say, how can we take this and put this into our schools, our churches, our private sector businesses? How do we put it into our families? Because yeah, tactics matter. Tactics matter across the board. And I'm not just talking with weapons. I'm talking up here. Mental health situations, we have bastardized our mental health system. Oh my gosh, have we killed it. So right now, it's up to a handful of mental health professionals or the cops to go deal with these situations. We don't have systems in place anymore because we have cut funding. The point is, the reason I'm ending with all of this is, we've gotten away from the handshake. We've gotten away from a degree of integrity and follow through. We have gotten away from doing the right thing. And we've allowed processes and policies and procedures to get affected, or we keep putting too many into place, which are affecting the outcome. HIPAA, good Lord, don't get me started. So we've got to be aware. We've got to acknowledge. We've got to allocate funds, and we got to put the right people with the right training in place. And I'm just hitting on the surfaces of things right now. Again, there's 1,000 talking points to go with this. But right now, it's broke. It's terribly, terribly broken. We got a whole lot of people out there trying to do good. We got a lot of good companies out there trying to create good widgets that are going to help solve lives. But we've got to have the foundational pieces. So that's my approach today. I'm going to keep hitting this and hitting this and hitting this and hitting this. We have alliances that we belong to. There's people that we work with that are going to speak into this. And there's going to be a lot more of this coming, because right now, our country is under attack. Our children are at risk on levels that I have not seen in my lifetime. And I would like to think that I've kind of been there, done that. So we're stepping up. I'm looking for you to share this. I'm looking for you to put the seal of approval on it by putting your name on it and saying, this matters. I, as a parent, want to know what my school board is doing. I want to know what my superintendent of my school is advocating. I want to know where the line items and the budgets are for safety. I want to know who in my school is protecting people. I want to know what programs that we're putting in our schools and in our churches. I want to know that my workplace is safe. If you're not asking these questions, then you're missing it. And I'm sorry to say that, but you are. New world, new times. We got to change. So, as a reminder, these two young men right here, heroes. I wish I was able to sit down and shake their hand and just thank them. And I can't. I wish I could look their parents in the eye and say, I'm sorry. This is the best I can do right now. We should honor them. We should honor them with a proactive approach to change our system and how we do things. Thank you for listening.